fun activities that are not practicing includes getting takeout food.
I honestly do, man, because that's like a journey.
I know, and like this is definitely my privilege and stuff showing, but like to me, I'm like, you get takeout, like, I mean, I get takeout every day for food. Like, I don't know, is that part of the fun?
No, especially in Korea though, because when I say takeout, I mean like they bring everyone goes out, grabs the food, brings it back, and they all sit in a circle and they like spend like an hour having dinner, right? Like they don't just grab a hamburger and eat it while they're playing Starcraft with one hand.
Which only I can do as a cannon rusher. But anyways, we're in the game, so let's talk. You're in the game, right? Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the players.
All right. Bottom left, as the blue Terran for Alpha X, he is MaSa.
And up at the top right-hand side of the map, we have the red Protoss player, my boy from Team Exxon. He is Ryan.
Truly the ugliest Protoss skin possible.
I do think of all the classic skins, it's the one that looks the best. Of like the Command Center and Hatchery, I think the Nexus actually looks the best.
They're all pretty bad. I think the Nexus is the worst. I think the Nexus is the worst because I think it's so obviously smaller than the normal Nexus. At least the other ones feel the same size, even if they're pretty ugly.
That's true. I also absolutely love the unbelievable epileptic seizure that is the Nexus when it's making probes. Like, it's a non-stop light show where just every single corner of the Nexus is lighting up and dimming immediately.
Stop building probes right as I was
I know. I'm watching your camera, so I saw that. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. I literally timed this out so well for this.
Come on.
He's gonna build the gas also first.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he starts up the probe now, yeah.
7X core Nexus.
Yeah, usually you start up probes before the second pylon, I thought, but... There it is.
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna actually watch your vision.
But I'm set to your vision.
Yeah, I know, but I'm gonna be right back.
Okay. Sounds good. Well, anyways, guys, we end up seeing a pretty standard PvT opening over here. MaSa is definitely one of those players that I think is a bit notorious for being aggressive, being cheesy and everything. So you actually do see that Brian goes for the nice little early probe scout, sees that, okay, it looks like a normal setup for MaSa on the other side of the map. Reaper's gonna come on in, Adept gets his first shot off, but should not theoretically be able to kill this Reaper just that easily. So he'll get one shot off, then the Reaper escapes behind the little vision cloud that blocks everything. But yeah, pretty normal looking opening so far from both of these players. I have to say, I think that MaSa is sometimes oversold as just a super cheesy, all-in, crazy, mind-gamey player, because I actually think when he does want to play some macro games, I think he can play some pretty solid macro, especially against, I think, players of Ryan's level who are definitely getting a lot better than they were before, but he's not necessarily at that top-notch level. He's not the hyper-competitive, I can beat a Neeb or a Silky or a lot of those other top names just quite yet.
All right.
Welcome back. Wow, I timed that out so perfectly.
You really did. Well done, well done. Okay, so yeah, MaSa, I do think that he, of players I think of, can rely on cheese more than others. You know, so often we say in a best of 5, it comes down to game number 5. Who is going to actually T-Rax in that game? Maru and MaSa, who is also a Maru, all right?
The one true Maru.
I could see that happening if he's actually like, oh shit, like Ryan actually got really good. Like, oh man, like I don't do this anymore. I don't want to play the Protoss War Prism.
That's not the way he would phrase that, by the way. The way he would phrase it was like, Protoss man, what can you do?
Yeah, exactly.
MaSa's definitely got one of those mentalities.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. And I mean, earlier today, seeing another Terran Epic get absolutely ruined by a War Prism. I see this coming across the map, and I'm like, well, the initial thing is not even the big deal. He's actually 3-gate, non-blink attacking MaSa. So this is actually really dedicated. But even if it wasn't, I'd just be like, oh, War Prism? That is tilting. But Ryan has done this before. It's all about speed, really. You bust down that bunker because who expects units across the map at this point? If you had SCVs repairing it, it's no big deal. If you don't have SCVs repairing it and it goes down, you don't have a lot of units to defend even this small amount of stalkers.
I mean, what would you do with the Raven over here? It looks like it's just going to be an auto... I'm almost wondering if pulling SCVs and going for an anti-armor missile would be helpful, but Siege Tank is going to be a critical part of this defense over here. But there's already a lot of lost mining time. Ryan is making probes and stuff behind this, so he's starting a bit of a transition out, and he should not be able to get that natural, but this is already more than enough damage to justify the investment.
He's got to be careful. I mean, his army it's gonna be bad for a while until it gets blink, until it gets charged. And I would actually kind of like to see charge first in case MaSa just goes across the map. I don't think getting blink is gonna help as much, but he does neither. He actually goes for a robotics bay first. It's a little scary. His army is not that good. It's not even that large, like quantity-wise. But it does always have that threatening warp prism. Even a couple of slow zealot warp-ins if MaSa does just take success CDs and go across the map.
Yeah, I'm also
frustrating.
I'm also really afraid because remember, there's also the Raven there, which, you know, Ryan should have seen. So when you talk about robotics bay versus the other upgrades you were talking about, where charge or blink and stuff, yeah, the interference matrix can shut down a Colossus. It can shut down a disruptor and everything. And suddenly, you know, half of your investment for making sure you stay alive against one of those CV pulls is just gone. So I'm also a little bit concerned about that, but I don't know if MaSa's actually going to be going for anything like that.
Well, he will have an attack around that third base, and his Raven will be used to interference matrix this Colossus. So that's definitely still going to happen. Question was more like, is there an immediate rebuttal to Ryan's early game harassment? And I mean, the answer is pretty much it's no, right? There wasn't anything immediate. Ryan should be able to collect at least one other upgrade, and I do still like that he goes for charge first, even though it's a bit of a risky play. Obviously, if MaSa does just decide to change it up and just full on, you know, multi-prong harass with a bunch of medevacs, he could be in trouble. But I think it's the right call. Like, even if he were to start making medevacs, which of course Terrans would do, literally just now they started. So it's not like he would have 6 medevacs to fly everywhere around the map. More likely, he's going to move across the map with tanks. And charge is going to do a little bit better against that.
Yeah. Auto turret harassment managed to snag 3 worker kills before expiring, but that's actually also most of the Raven energy is going to use the second bit of Raven energy on another auto turret. Does another 3 or 4 workers over here. So, I mean, definitely useful damage that ends up happening there for MaSa. But needs to make sure they can also deal with the Warp Prism and the Colossus drought that's coming in. Oh god, there's so many tanks over here. But they're all in siege! Oh my god!
That was a bit funny. Very dangerous play, but he knew where the he knew the Raven was, so the Warp Prism wasn't going to be denied, drop, or pick up. Okay. And,
bad command center, move!
With the Raven now using its energy to harass, it's like, well, I mean, if he were to go across the map, that's a Raven that's not being used, so Ryan keeping up the pressure and keeping up the scouting, but cannot lose the Warp Prism. Don't do that.
Yeah, Viking does a surprising amount of damage to those Warp Prisms, but yeah, it'll get out of there alive and safe for now, so. MaSa's just going to be able to establish his third base now. And it really does look like, I mean, supplies are dead even. It seems like both of these players are going to be getting up some of their upgrades, although Ryan is only going to have +1 armor coming on out. He's also going into, like, Temple Archives and stuff. So I do feel like this is kind of anyone's game right now after a very aggressive opening there from Ryan.
You know, MaSa did take a sweet time actually doing this move out. Now he's finally ready to go. Actually, he has stopped building SCVs, but I think that's just because he's supply blocked. But, anyways. I feel like, you know, Ryan, maybe he could have gotten blink, but I guess his plan was to attack, actually, so no blink here. He finds the army, but honestly, this is kind of awkward. That's not, that now the Zealots have been halved here as he reinforces, that's great, but that's a scary Terran army, and this, the AI of the Colossus.
He does manage to snag a lot of the bio here, so, I mean, this does get kind of weird for both of them, right? Because now MaSa, his base is a lot closer to the army than Ryan's base was to MaSa's army. So I do feel like, yeah, MaSa's kind of forced to retreat back. And I think if Ryan can sacrifice, like, the Zealots to buy time while a recall goes off, while he continues to move on in, just get a bunch of damage done, sacrifice, like, 5 or 6 of the Zealots, and then just recall out. I actually think that'll have been a great move there for Ryan.
Yep, I don't think MaSa thought he would go so deep into the base, you know? Like, he thought he's maybe going to get a surround potential. He's still going to kind of get a surround, but his tanks are the most effective when they're sieged, and they take their sweet time to siege, and Ryan just keeps backing away.
Okay, so Ryan is eventually going to hit up against this hard wall where he cannot run back any further. The Warp Prism gets sniped off with a Colossus, by the way. So there's 2 Colossus left over. Okay, there's the recall. He is going to be able to get out. Okay, yeah, he gets out of there and barely loses anything.
I do think he overstayed his welcome a little bit. Like,
Yeah.
the tank was firing on the right side of the stalkers, and he wasn't really getting much more for the amount of time he was waiting. I don't know. Yeah, I think maybe he wanted to try and get a good recall and not be jumped on, but at some point he just had to be like, yeah, I'm going to get jumped on. But certainly had enough energy. He had the cooldown. And speaking of energy, he needs to get back to chrono boosting some important things. +2 armor is on the way. Storm is a priority now for Ryan. After that attack, I actually don't know if Ryan is in, like, the super best situation, just because he is still missing Blink, and his upgrade still, like, he never got the double forge. So if MaSa just adds on a Ghost Academy, which I feel like he should, he's not. If he added a Ghost Academy, he'd be good.
Yeah. Okay, so he lost his armor rate, and that's why MaSa's actually starting up another one, because, yeah, I guess he's just focusing on trying to get a +2 armor and +2 weapons before worrying about Ghost. But yeah, I feel like the pathway to victory that we've seen from so many Terran players when it gets to these later stages has just been carpet bomb the Protoss army with EMPs, and there you go. Like, that's half the hit points gone. The Zells are a lot easier to deal with, especially if you have good upgrades, but doesn't seem like he's gonna maybe get the chance for this. Ryan being very sneaky here. He's grabbing that fourth, but he's also grabbing the bottom right-hand base as he attacks forward. A lot of stuff happening right now for Ryan.
God. Oh my god, he almost loses the Warp Prism, so he has to unload the High Templars, making it a little bit more obvious where those storms are going to come down, and the Warp Prism should still fall. This was a very brazen attack by Ryan. Oh god, that was a disaster.
So, there were a few things that didn't go well in that. The engagement obviously didn't go well for all the stuff you described. Ryan also had 800 extra minerals that were going to be tied up in 2 different nexus that he was establishing. He also didn't wait for, like, Blink or anything to finish out that would be helpful versus the Vike. I feel like I would have even been more okay with that attack if he had just waited an extra, like, 20 seconds.
Right, I see what you're saying, but I feel like also waiting extra 20 seconds meant that he would have been posturing and sizing up the engagement, but I guess he saw an opportunity and he wanted to go for it. It wasn't the best trade of an army, but his DT is starting to add in some little more damage and also buy a little more time. Because overall, I still think that Ryan is supposed to be in the better situation. He's allowed 1 or 2 slip-ups, like that army fight. Especially if this DT is going to continue doing damage. Dear lord. This actually is so much time buying. If MaSa wasn't dealing with DTs right now, he'd be bopping the 4th base, not letting Ryan mine from his 5th, and instead he's just back at home dealing with this shit. Ugh.
I have to say, though, feels no +1 weapons, man. When the DTs can't one-shot workers anymore, oh, painful. But okay, there's the recall to the bottom right-hand base. MaSa has a 4th base being established, but, well, he's definitely not going to have any idea that he's actually on 4 base versus 3. Or, sorry, 4 base versus 5.
At least MaSa does have a 4th base.
Yeah.
You know, if they both get maxed out, it's anyone's game, but as I was saying, MaSa probably had a decent counter if all that time wasn't just bot right there. I'm also worried that at this point he is just kind of... I mean, I can't say that he forgot about ghosts because he just got a bunch of storms in his face, but you're on 3 base saturation, you usually get a Ghost Academy. You're on 4 base saturation, you have a Ghost Academy. Where is the Ghost Academy?
My guess would be either A, he forgot it, which just seems entirely likely, but B, he also just was taking so much economic damage. I could see it just being one of those situations where he feels like he can't afford it and he needs to get up like his other upgrades and everything. But yeah, I'm definitely with you. I would have preferred, like, if it was a choice between making a couple extra Marauders or Marines or something versus getting a Ghost Academy, I would probably prefer the Ghost Academy.
No, I think you're supposed to. I think we can actually be a bit critical here and say, like, this isn't a, oh, well, I see his point. Like, he is 4 base saturated. He is not being attacked. He is going to find this base, which sucks for Ryan, but it's good for MaSa. This, like, you would have a Ghost Academy. He did have to refill his gas geysers. The DTs did, okay, well, he'll eventually see it.
There we go.
The DTs did stop him from mining gas efficiently, but finally have a Ghost Academy on the way. It's only going to be super effective when it also has the EMP shockwaves. I would give MaSa's army like a lot of credibility if it had Ghosts, because it's also getting 2-2 right now. But he doesn't have Ghosts, and he's about to be attacked.
ZombieGrub, the probes basically baited MaSa's entire army out so that the entire army here for Ryan can move over to this base. snipe off all of the SCVs. Theoretically, in theory, where are your storms, buddy? There you go.
He's losing a lot of stalkers. What is he? Wait, this Colossus are in range of the planetary? What is happening?
Whoa.
DT's trying getting some serious damage done, but he loses more of his army than he ever should. I mean, he's already lost 2 Colossus, though. One to a planetary, one to the Vikings that are mostly still alive. And the DTs, all he needed is a scan, not even. Missile turrets providing that vision. They would have killed 18 SCVs, but that was a heavy investment that eventually got cleaned up. And the Nexus, I guess would-be Nexus over here, is going to not happen. DT's trying to save the day. Ryan, truly a Diamond 1 Protoss right now, building 15 DTs in an action-packed game. I'm just kidding. This is actually so distracting.
I mean, it really is just one of those things where, yes, DTs can be dealt with, but it requires a lot of actions, and that it's not necessarily something that MaSa has a time for when he has Zealots running into his natural, Warp Prism that was in his main base warping in, Engagement being teased at his 4th base, and MaSa's also trying to be aggressive. Yeah, like, you're gonna run out of time and actions to use those scans, just micro against those DTs. I actually really like the decision. But yeah, it is a big investment. So with Ghost finally coming on out, this is where the DTs are probably going to be struggling.
He's already lost 16 DTs, and he still has 9. Like,
I've lost way more than that before.
Of course you have, but as cool as DTs look, and as like, you are correct, they are super difficult to deal with in multiple locations. I think he might have overmade DTs, where he could have made maybe another Colossus, transition into Disruptors, have more Blink Stalker. You know what I'm saying? Like, DTs are a little one-dimensional at the end of the day.
You know, there's one situation where I'd say, like, I actually think he could still make the DTs work in this, like, situation. But it's if he, instead of having +3 armor, which is the correct upgrade to go for if you're going to go for like these standard plays and everything, if instead of that he went for weapons and he was one-shotting Marines, I actually think they can actually add in quite a bit into the army when it comes to a direct fight. If you have like 12 to 15 DPs, you blink in on the Marines, you one-shot like a quarter of them, yeah, that's when it makes a difference. But over here, like, they're not going to make that much of a difference in the army fights.
They really do feel like not a clinical strike, you know, it's not surgery on the Terran army, blinking from behind on top of the tanks, the perfect move. No, they do feel a lot more like, I'm winning, I'm going to make 10 of them and really get you. Oh no, I didn't win with that.
That's
and
such
then I'm going to make
Terran perspective.
That, and then I made 15 more. What are you talking about? I'm talking from my Protoss perspective, honestly. Like, I would 100% be like, this Terran's gonna fucking cry his heart out, man. These DT's gonna ruin, like, it's gonna really ruin his day. And then if I didn't win, I'd be like, oh no, more DTs! Emergency, emergency! But while we were talking about that, Ryan has managed to bridge that supply gap. He stopped making DTs, and the ones that did end up dying at the last second there did buy a lot of time. So I think there was like a 30 supply gap. Now it's down to more like 20.
Ooh.
He's got some storms as well. Would love to see some disruptors to help out because there's only so many storms left. The EMP, not going to happen. The storms are still going to buy more time, but now it's a 50 supply gap. And, ooh, no.
That's the last High Templars. There's no more High Templars. There's only one Archon that's actually anti-armor missile. There's only really Stalkers left over, and a lot of the Stalkers did get EMP'd earlier on. They're barely starting to regenerate their shields. MaSa looks like he has had enough of Ryan. This game has gone so back and forth, but he's finally going to cause the tap out. GG, MaSa takes game number 1.
I wanted to check how many DTs died in this game. 35 with 1 still alive. He made 36 DTs. And you know, they almost worked. I loved the initial ones, and I loved the idea of them as the game went on, but he did maybe make twice as many as he needed to.
Yeah, the other thing I will actually say is, like, 2 of his big DT warpins of like 6 DTs, they were actually defensive DTs. So they would be MaSa moving across the map with like a small squadron of units. And when you warp in defensively, like, this is like the ultimate bad feeling where you're like, okay, let me warp in like 1 DT or like 2 DTs and some Zealots. And then the Terran army, just, or like the little bio ball, just micros a little bit away from the Zealots, kills them, and the DT takes 10 years to go actually kill all the Marines and Marauders, especially when you don't have any weapon upgrades to actually one-shot the Marines. You're like, oh, okay, that was just a waste. When you warp in like 5 or 6, though, you're like, all right, this handles this. I don't have to look at this drop anymore. I will go direct my attention elsewhere. But I think that he was memeing a little bit. But I also think that it may have been like making the best of a bad situation.
I think I legitimately I think some like half of it was a bit of panic. Like you warp in 7 units and you think DTs, so you warp in 7 DTs instead of 3 plus 4 stalkers or whatever.
Yeah.
And the other half was like, yeah, that was his intention. He wanted to defend with DTs and he wanted to harass with DTs. But it really all started with that botched attack on the planetary. It was a fantastic idea. Attack the planetary, force him to defend it, eventually lose it, because the SCVs really should have died and not been able to out-repair. And then the DTs are either slaughtering reinforcements or buying time, regardless. But it ended up, he lost on both sides. What ended up happening. He lost the planetary fight and he lost the, 7 DTs there. And it kind of started that snowball where it's, lesser players than MaSa would have still, dropped all their oranges and they would have died. But MaSa's a good player, kept his head in the game, kept everything alive, and ends up taking it. But Ryan certainly made him work for it, and I feel like we're prophets for Dragon. MaSa might have won that game, but I think he's still going with fucking Fronos and 2 T2 super cool. I can see an SCV, absolutely. Man.
Yeah, man. He is gonna be sending that first SCV straight across the map, throwing up one of those proxies. He's still got a barracks up back at home. Oh no, is he actually going to go for the proxy, or is he just going to go for the engineering bay block? Yeah,
engineering bay block. How do you like it, Protoss? How do you like it?
I used to really get tilted by this. And then Australia's just like, dude, just pull 4 workers. Like, just pull 4 probes, it's fine. I'm like, oh. Okay, I haven't actually lost to an engineering bay block since.
Well, you don't ever lose to an engineering bay block. I never say that a Zerg lost to a pylon block.
I used to lose to an engineering bay block. Well, I used to be like, all right, I'm taking my 3rd instead, or like, all right, I'll get out of Zealot and take my Nexus so much later than yours and fall super far behind. Like, I actually used to lose to them, but, obviously these players are much better than me. That's why they're here.
Yeah. Well, Ryan didn't get the opportunity to pull 4 probes, and he's going to have to do the Zealot response, but it is mostly fine. MaSa, being a real Protoss player right now, blocks the natural and then tries to gas steal.
Is that your definition of an annoying player? Is like a Protoss player?
Yes, but specifically when it comes to annoying workers. I've never accused a drone of being annoying. I've rarely accused an SCV, like in TvT, but really?
PvZ, and oh my god, like the drone that hash blocks your Nexus, or like takes your, the rare occasion that they like take your gas geyser or something, or they block your wall in, like, oh my god.
I have played PvZ.
No, I said you need to play more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I caught myself there.
Okay, alright. I still think that's fine, man. Nothing's as much of a dickhead as a probe.
There's a little micro thing that I've been thinking a lot about, which is, how the Adept, if it gets 1 shot off on the Reaper, shades forward and gets 1 more shot off, it doesn't get the 3rd attack off because it's just barely out of range. I've been thinking, Protoss players could just shade, like, right as the Adept is going to finish, instead of having it right-clicked on the Reaper, you could micro it to move in front of the Reaper, because it actually does move faster, and you would just get that 3rd shot, wouldn't you?
I don't know why. Wait, why are you? What? That is what a lot of people do.
Oh, okay. I never see it. I always see like, oh, the Adept is gonna see the Reaper and it's gonna shade and right click on the Reaper. It's gonna end up getting 1 shot off and then it'll miss the second. Never mind.
Wait, no, I actually.
Really clever.
Well, first of all, that Adept died. Second of all, Ryan is going for a proxy Dark Shrine. But third of all, yeah, I feel like what you're describing, it either happens once or twice, like they'll shade past the Reaper to try and get 2 shots on it, or it'll be a 2nd shot, not a 3rd shot, and then they won't bother killing it. Like they know they won't be able to get it. So,
oh, Stalker's. I guess the grenade was gonna knock him out of the way anyways, but. Oh, Pro's being pulled. Okay, it looks like he... Oh, you know what I think he's trying to do? This is that unfortunate situation where you try so actively to hide information.
Yeah.
The Twilight Council already gets scouted, so I don't know if it really was hiding that much.
I absolutely... If someone did this to me on ladder, I'd be like, oh, it's a Dark Shrine. Like,
Ironically, even though the Dark Shrine wasn't even there, like, he could have just started up a fake upgrade and it probably would have pulled it.
Received. Thank you for
yeah, you're right. I think it would have. I'm not sure there's other things that change up too much between a Blink build and a Dark Shrine build. Maybe the Robo could have been faster, but that's sometimes a choice between faster Robo or faster Second Gateway. There are two gateway, expansions. And, yeah, well, anyways. The Raven is out. Might have been MaSa's plan anyways. And these DTs should not do a lot of damage. Should not.
Raven actually moved over toward the right-hand side of the main base for a second, so... One DT does manage to get into the natural, kills off 2 workers, recall. Oh, maybe he doesn't have the energy, or he just feels like it's not worth the chrono, but I feel like saving the DT is usually worth it.
39. He did have the energy. Maybe he didn't think about it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Well, DT Blink is on the way with charge, so he's going for the follow-up all-in, trying to bust the tank, bust the bunkers. Or, also, like, you know, having an army where they aren't is also very effective at this point, where the War Prism actually warps in 8 of the Zealots. It's quite scary. So let's see if MaSa's going to be prepared for this. He should scan if he's not already thinking about it.
Yeah.
Well, this is still harassment, though. He doesn't know it's the all-in.
Oh, you mean scan the main base, yeah.
Definitely. Right, yeah.
The bright side here for Ryan is that even though a lot of stuff is not going very well, and I have to say, like, losing the first two DTs, if you're going to go for this charge lot DT Blink all-in, kind of rough. But MaSa is basically going for the unit composition that this aims to try and kill and smash, right? Like, the couple of those tanks, a lot of Marines, barely any Marauders actually in the mix. If Ryan is able to hit MaSa, with MaSa, like you said, doesn't have that extra information or anything, like, this is what can really make it work. But okay, yeah. I feel like yeah, you might have a decent idea of what's coming when you see that.
Yeah, I think you do. And it seems like MaSa was already kind of thinking of this anyways. Like, he's going to get a confirmation scan on the 3rd and be like, yeah, I made the right choice. But he was already building a wall, which I think he's intentionally making a tower defense. Like, that's not a full wall. That's a choke.
That's not, yeah. Oh my god, that's actually so funny.
I think it's intentional, right? You saw the SCV go through it, so that it creates a choke.
They're just baiting him?
Well, like, it's not just about the DTs blinking in, it's usually about the charge lots coming in too, but the charge lots were in the main that just got killed, and, well, anyways.
Well, it's going to be a really solid 2-0 lead for MaSa in that second game.
Yeah. I mean, I love Ryan throwing out these different builds, but I do think maybe the Dark Shrine build in the second game wasn't the right time to do it. I legitimately think because you showed so many Dark Templars in the first game, I actually think a Terran player would identify you as a Dark Templar guy and be a little more inclined to think DTs before anything else, regardless of the fact that MaSa also got some decent scouting. So
that's a good point. And you know, there are some players out there that like don't make too many of those kind of assumptions and stuff. Like, I know Neeb is one of those players that sometimes like he doesn't really care too much about who he's playing against as much. Like, he just kind of has his style of PvZ or PvT or whatever that he'll play. MaSa is one of the players that's like, all right, let me get inside your head and read your mind kind of players. Like, he will think about all that kind of stuff. Like, stylistically, you know what? I think that this player really likes making DTs, or like they really like doing these kind of builds and stuff. So I'm going to try and bait them into doing it and then not, like, you know, be hard prepared for it or something. So yeah, I'm with you. I think that you always got to be wary of those games with MaSa, who is going to be sending out another one of those fast SCVs.
I do think this is fast enough to be a proxy, but we're also losing someone.
So fast that we actually have to stall the game to slow it down. MaSa, you're breaking rules, man. We made a 12 worker start, so you couldn't do this kind of stuff.
Shut up. Yeah. Well, that seems to be a good old-fashioned real disconnect, so I gotta wait 30 seconds. Just trying to throw down some cheeky sprays.
Why
you do?
Every unit have a break, to be honest.
Huh.
I feel like every unit should be able to spray. Every unit.
Oh, you can do your decal and your spray? Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never used it once. I think I've tagged literally once since its inception.
Really?
Yeah, and it was like because you guys like were yelling at me to do it in a team game or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Honestly, I actually think the funnest thing to do, which unfortunately, like, you can't, that's not the way that the game works, would be if you could spray other people's buildings. So, like, right now, if you put a spray down on top of someone's building, it'll just go underneath the building. My dream would be, like, I could tag your Nexus or something. And then you can actually make it like graffiti art, basically, on their buildings.
That would be cool. Probably something extremely difficult. We doesn't seem like it'd be difficult.
Yeah.
But then
No,
it'll be
I
like,
agree.
no, it's actually super difficult.
Right,
I'm sure it would be. But, like, how fun would it be to just put on, like, a big spray on a building? Like, you can target the building and it makes a big spray on it, not like a small one. It just says, like, I'm dumb or something like that. And points, like, toward the hatchery or something.
Something, balance. Bug, you know. Whatever.
Oh my god, this could be a spray. I'm with OP and it's just a left arrow or something. And you put it next to, like, a Dark Shrine or a Coast Academy.
You know what? That's actually amazing. You should 100% suggest that.
Oh my god, I'm gonna message
god.
Ryan right now.
Please do. That is amazing. Yes. Okay. Well, MaSa is going for that proxy Reaper into probably even more proxied stuff. I mean, he is one of those Terran players I would not put it past him in this day and age to go for the proxy factory as well, though it is the riskier thing to do. He's going to put that back at home, but I'm curious to see what he's following up with. I don't think it's just going to be for the Reaper. It's going to be something else. Cyclones with an upgrade. Banshees. Proxy medevac. What's going to happen?
Okay, so Ryan is... Oh, okay. Well, it's Ryan's giving me feedback on the idea. But yeah, this is definitely one of those super annoying situations for a Protoss player. They really do have to think about all sorts of different things that could be thrown at them. In the meanwhile, yeah, this bunker is just going to be annoying. It's going to try and keep the Adept at home a little bit longer because poor Ryan, has not really seen anything further out from here.
You can't really see very much more, but based off the timing of the Reaper, he knows it's going to be more trouble. So getting a shield battery in the main is, I think, pretty worth it. You don't have to worry about the shield battery in the natural quite yet, but you do want to know, like, are they also proxying a factory? People can do that. You can go for a 1-1-1 entirely in proxy. And then you would absolutely need a shield battery in the natural. Right now, it is just the Reaper harassment. Adept is going to get the confirmation on that. It's actually just a factory expand, too. So I thought I was going to do something more. I kind of wanted him to do something more, but it's just the Cyclone for now. Upgrade? A recall? Huh. I guess he thought something was going to pop out much faster than it was.
Yeah, it must have been because the Reapers weren't going to be taking on the Adept anytime super easily.
Nailed it. Yes, I like it. Upgrade on the way.
Okay, well, with the Stargate coming on out, I actually do think that Stargate can help deal with some of these, like, the early stages of these Cyclones openings really well. But as the game goes on, like, if these Cyclones, do you expect them to get into, like, higher numbers, or is it just kind of like the early couple of Cyclones?
So 2 or 3. There is a push you can do with this as well, although I'm not sure that's going to be his intention. But Cyclones, their very initial appearance in Legacy of the Void, one of the first things people decided to do against them was counter with Phoenix. So that's been a thing for a while. About as long as a Reaper has countered an Immortal, you know what I'm saying? So I don't really mind this at all. I think it's actually a fair, general covering technology that you can get as a Protoss player as a Stargate. So it'll help you against most things.
Yeah. Okay. Banshee's going to be coming on out, so, well, Phoenix is definitely going to be useful there, especially since the Banshee's not going to be coming out with Cloak or anything right now. No Cloak on the way. A very forward proxy pylon there from Ryan also. Is Ryan thinking about moving out?
What is he doing?
He's only on 3 gateways right now. I feel like this might just be the harassment proxy pylon where, like, Terran player moves out, I warp in a couple of Adepts or Zealots and do something cheeky.
He is going for the attack, by the way. Like, Ryan is heading on proxy gateway, but I was talking about MaSa. MaSa has not stopped building Cyclones and Banshees. He can actually just move across the map with both of those units and maybe a couple SCVs for repair and do a lot of damage. The probe comes in, And, like, the Banshee's like, do I kill it? No, I hide. It goes across the map. There you go. But Ryan, he might have the correct technology to deal with something like this. It still requires a bit of fancy footwork. I think he still needs to see that this is actually what it is. He might be assuming, though. He might just know MaSa. Like, of course this guy follows up with Banshees.
Yeah, it's I love that image where MaSa is like dark Templar. MaSa's winning the game. Ryan's like, oh, freaking Banshees. Cloaky boys always causing pain and suffering for the other team.
It's Cloaky boys and Cloaky gals, feardragon.
So far, I think it's. Oh yeah, actually you're right. It is
Banshees.
Cloaky gals. Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking of Ghost for some reason, and I was like, wait a second, there's no Ghost in this game.
Terran has the most, diverse representation by far. Get Rex, Protoss.
That is true. That is very true.
What? I'm not even sure it's worth getting in there. Yeah, I actually think it's better that he canceled the shade. That was a very good scout. He just scouted that it is mech, which I think would be something Ryan is aware of the possibility. Always nice to get the confirmation.
So with this style of like Cyclone, Banshee mech, which I have to say MaSa and his Banshee harassment is so annoying and so good. He always just seems to find these little openings. Like, look, there's a fleet of Phoenix out. And the Banshees, 2 Banshees or 3 Banshees there kill like 11 workers. That is absurd considering Phoenix should be the hard counter shutdown to the Banshees. How do you usually like to see Protoss players try and react to these kind of armies? This attack?
No. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I would say that usually I wouldn't like it. Maybe it's going to work. The Cyclone numbers not large enough. Don't tear down the Phoenix. They instead get all crowd controlled, and that tank was so far forward that I got instantly bopped.
Okay, kill the missile turret, buddy, man. Like, oh my god, if you kill the missile turret, so a few of your Phoenix could have survived, or even the Oracle, but that's 12 workers killed. He did just even up the number of workers that both sides have. So MaSa's actually down a few workers, still doesn't have that third base mining or anything. And oh my god, because the Oracle died, there's no detection, like long-term detection.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yeah. Even with, denying all of those Cyclones, it just wasn't quite a powerful enough army. GG. It's going to be a 3-0 in MaSa's favor.
Well, I am definitely conflicted because I do feel like Ryan showed a lot of promise at points, like in Game 1 and in Game 3 in that series. Game 2 was definitely a bit of a bopping. But, I'm really happy for MaSa because I think